ever since they began to build the new Starbucks here, I've been wanting to run down to it and just take a look close up because I haven't stopped. And it's funny, all along, there are always people stopping like this guy here just to take a look at it. To see, wow, we're really getting a Starbucks in there. Now, mind you, in the neighborhood here in Riverside, that means 3 miles from my house. And then just beyond the Starbucks, one of the nice parts that's going on for us that pretty much everyone out here in our community is excited about is our very own In-N-Out with their trademark palm trees crossed across each other. They put those in about 3 months ago. I don't know how long they put those in and let them sit before they really make sure that they're ready, but they had them braced and roped, and now they've got the braces off. Now they've got the rope. Oh, it looks like they still have a strap on them so that they would have all of that ready. And now they're going from what, hardscape to landscape, and the In-N-Out looks just about ready. And all of this is, and you can see the drive-through for the Starbucks right here next to the In-N-Out. And all of this is right across from National Cemetery. National Cemetery here in Riverside. That's where my mom and dad are buried. That's where Debbie's folks are buried. But I thought about it today as I was running. That's also where my friend Ed Jones is buried. Ed Jones and I used to spend a couple hours together each week. Not just in church. We were in church together, but we would spend time together golfing or talking or praying or traveling or going someplace together. Ed was a good friend, and I've missed him since he died. But Ed used to love, Ed had been head of Strategic Air Command during the bombing of Cambodia. Ed had confessed more things to me about horrible things that the government had done. Ed had known every single president. He'd either known them personally, served alongside them, or met them, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt all the way up until Bush. And Ed's the reason I ever saw Bush. Without him, I wouldn't have, the younger Bush. Ed was just an incredible guy, but he would like to talk to me about when I would get really focused on something. He would tell me the story about target fixation. Maybe you're familiar with it. You've read about these pilots of the Blue Angels or something like that, where one pilot will be in the lead, and they've got, what they do is they have a mark on the ground, and they pick that mark, and then they come barreling out of the sky. And Ed used to fly an F-16, and so he knew all about it. They'd come barreling out of the ground, and then they would pick that mark, and then somewhere above that mark, I don't know, a mile or whatever it was, they would all break out, and they'd go in different directions. It's really cool. You've seen it at an air show or probably in the movies. It's really a beautiful thing, but you've also probably read about when the first one hits, and then the other 4 or 5 follow right in succession at it, hundreds of miles an hour, all of them plow into the ground, and they're all killed. Now, Ed would tell me that when you're in the jet, as you came down, as you got closer, alarms were going off everywhere. But even with alarms going off everywhere, everyone still would plow into the ground and get killed, because the first guy had what was known as target fixation. He couldn't take his eyes off the target. And everyone else, they were locked into their lead pilot. And in following that lead pilot, everyone was lost because of one person's target fixation. I think it's easy to see so many of the metaphors in the church today, in our political leadership, in what's happening in our nation, in what's happening in just people on the streets of Los Angeles and across our nation. As one person gets target fixation and everyone else follows right behind to their own destruction, and there are people that are just left in the wake of this destruction. I think the good news at times like this is that one person made a telephone call. Mark and I used to argue over who it was. And we reached out and we called a stranger. It was Ed. Now, Ed's body may be over here at National Cemetery now, but Ed's soul not. It was just a random telephone call. Hi, my name's Eric. I'm calling from Central Community. I was wondering if you have a church home. And Ed, what he did was he had come home and he knew that he needed to come. Something inside of him, he was out golfing and something said, come home. He went and he dug out a little New Testament someone gave him during World War II. He dug at it and it said, when in doubt, read Philippians. He turned to Philippians. Heard Ed tell that story so many times. And as he was reading Philippians, the phone rang. And it was an invitation to go to church. And he went and he told his wife, Jessie, such a good friend of ours, Jessie, we're going to church this Sunday. And Ed gave his heart to the Lord that Sunday. And because of Ed, so many people have followed, not down to destruction, but into inspiration, into new life, and into resurrection with the Lord. You see, the direction that you're going, there are people that are following you. And you need to make sure that the target that you're fixated on is the target that you want to lead everyone else to. Because if you're going towards the wrong target, and it may be a good target, heck, it may be an in and out. But if you're going to a target that leads towards destruction, everyone else is going to go with you. We're going to Christmas. And my invitation to you today is to step away from that life of mediocrity and to step into something that's genuinely miraculous. I had the coolest Christmas story happen to me on the run down here. I'm about 3 miles from home right now. And I was running in a glove. I found this glove on the ground. And I thought, hey, that looks brand new. I'm going to put that on. I'll run kind of like Michael Jackson, just one glove. So I've been running along with this one glove on. And then I came across an electrical team, and I noticed they were all wearing the same kind of glove as I had on. And so I spoke out to the guy, and I said, hey, I've got one of your gloves, I'm sorry. And he looked up and put his hands up, and he feigned that he didn't speak English, and he spoke to me in Spanish, and then turned his head away from me like he wanted to ignore me. And so I responded to him in Spanish. And then he turned around and he spoke perfect English to me. And he said, listen, I don't need the glove. He said, I got a truck full of those gloves. He said, feel free to keep it. I said, no, I'm happy to. I just found it back here outside your work site. And he said, hey, why don't you come up to my truck and I'll give you one. And that way you have 2 of them and you won't look like Michael Jackson. And I said, no, I don't need it really. Thanks a lot. We laughed. I said, Merry Christmas. And he said, Merry Christmas to me. And I thought about how it changed my morning, just the kindness of a stranger. Get your target fixated on that which is right today. Go out and be the miracle. Have an amazing weekend. And you know what? I need you to fill a backpack. December 22nd, we're taking them to the streets. And if you don't fill one, we're going to be taking some empty ones. Come on out, fill a backpack. I'm putting a glove in one of mine. Have a great day. Be the miracle.